Okay, so now we're back with in the middle of doing this implode thing. What we want to do is we want to make this so we output some kind of string that we can pass through into our query. So what do we want to do? Well, on the outside of this, I'm going to append two things, or two strings, sorry. And what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to implode I'm going to append a backtick here, and I'm going to append a backtick here. Now within this, I'm going to append a backtick, a comma, and then another backtick. And this is exactly the same as how we output errors in the last part of the tutorial. And what we did is this will always be on the left-hand side of the result of this. This will always be on the right-hand side of the result of this. And within, we're going to implode, and within that, we're going to put a backtick, a comma, and a backtick. So now, if we go ahead and echo fields, we get this. So you can see now that when we select data from a query, we actually say select user ID, comma, username, password, and we do it exactly like this. So now we can just pass this string into a query, and if, for example, I said in the last part we want to remove email, then this will be removed from the query. So it's perfect. We've got a really, really flexible way of doing this now. So let's go ahead and actually get on with doing our query. I'm going to say data is equal to MySQL query. And remember, we've got data up here, which is going to return all of our data, and we'll need to use the MySQL fetch a sock function, or associative array function, in a moment, and we're going to wrap that around this. So I'm going to say select fields from, and remember our database table is called users, where user ID is equal to user ID. User ID is the first parameter that we pass through into the function, and fields is what we've just generated. So actually, let me just go and echo this so you can sort of see the result of this. So I'm going to kill the script there and echo this, and go ahead and refresh. So we've got select user ID, username, password, first name, last name, email from users where user ID equals 1. 1 is the session that we passed through here, and then these are the fields. So if I go ahead and get rid of these two, the query that we're going to pass through to the database updates to reflect that, and then we can just return this data and use that as we please. So very effective, but somewhat complicated, but once you get your head around this, it's really, really good thing to do. And then outside of this, in fact no, we're going to return data. Now we can't quite return the data yet because this is going to be an array, so we're going to use the MySQL fetch a sock function and wrap this all in this. So if I go ahead and print our data, and go ahead and just kill the script there, and I refresh, you see now we've got all of my data. All of my user data from the database has been retrieved, placed into this associative array, and we can just use this wherever we want. And remember, this user data function is returning the data, so it's returning an array. Within init.php, user data is now an array, so if I was to go ahead and say echo user, in fact let's do that within this query here. So if I was to go ahead and say echo user data, let's say username, and I refresh, we've got Alex up here. If I was to go and say echo user data password, and I refresh, we get my password hash, and the same with things like first name and stuff like that. However, obviously if I go ahead and remove first name, we don't have access to that, so you need to make sure we've got an undefined index error there. So you need to make sure that you're passing through all of the parameters that you want to use, and then you can just use them as you please. So if, for example, and I'll just give a quick example, if we were to go ahead and add, say, another field to here at some point, over in the structure tab, if we were to add a field at the end of the table, and this was to be called I don't know, color, and our favorite color, for example, varchar, let's say 10, and I was to go ahead and update my account to reflect this. This could be in the front end or in the back end. Actually, my favorite color is green. Click go. Now, what would I want to do if I want to update my output to my favorite color? Well, all I do is I pass through color, and then I can go ahead and just use this anywhere on the site. And bear in mind, this line we can use anywhere on the site because we now have access to this user data variable, and then we have the result there. So it's so easy. We don't need to write another line of code once we've done this. So if you're struggling with this, do it. You'll feel better, a lot better for it. So let's go ahead and tidy up all this rubbish. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this color field at the end of here. So let's drop that. Okay. And we don't want to output my favorite color. That now returns an error. Instead, what we want to do is we want to return back to our original example, which is logged in here. And I'm going to say, actually we want an H2 in here, because remember this is a widget and it uses an H2. Let's go over to login actually as a reference. Let's copy this and paste this in here. So this is where we want to say hello whatever, and this is where we want some links. So some links go in here. So inside of here I'm going to say echo. In fact, no, I'll do it the proper way. So hello, and then echo user data. Remember what we've just done. We'll say first name. We'll greet the user by the first name. I think that's a lot nicer. And a nice exclamation mark on the end. When I refresh, hello Alex. So we now have access to this data anywhere on our site. So any pages where we include init.php, we have this information. And that's about it. We've created a really flexible way to retrieve data from the database. We've included this logged in script because we are obviously logged in now. Otherwise we would have included this, but now that we are logged in inside init.php, we check that we're logged in, we save the session, we grab all this user data, and then we can output it absolutely anywhere.